Okay, so now that we were able to add our administrator, let's talk about the process of configuring and managing a remote event. And notice when I talk about it, I say configuring. I'm not really talking about creating an event because, again, for the FTC scoring system, these events are not being created in the scoring system. Those events are created by a first staff member when they receive the event information from the PDP. So again, if I am the PDP for New Hampshire, I would fill in a spreadsheet provided to me by First with information about my scheduled events for the next few months, and I would submit that to the First staff team, and a first staff member would take that information and enter it into the database on the TARDIS system, and then the TARDIS system would be synchronized with the FTC scoring system, or the FTC scoring system would synchronize itself with the data from the TARDIS for both events and teams. And then I, as the PDP or my region's administrator, just need to find that event in my list of events that have been synchronized from TARDIS. And then when I do that, I do some basic configuration, and then I add teams to it, and then I'm all ready for my teams to start competing. So let's go through that process of configuring and manage a remote event. So let's pick an event to be a remote event. Let's pick this US New Hampshire Test Scrimmage 0. Okay, I'm going to schedule that as an event. So I click on that one, and I get to this screen, which is the event screen. So this, similar to how you have all these menus for managing or modifying or configuring a region, you have for this specific region, there's an event. This event code is over here, and there is a name of the event and the type of event. This is a scrimmage, but in this case, you can manage that event using the menu items over here. Okay. So let's talk about manage event. That's one of the primary ones. In manage events, we have to actually put together, we have a dashboard which helps you with all of the kinds of steps that you as a PDP or region administrator have to take in order to successfully configure and manage an event. And the first one is the event users action. So similar to how when we logged into the system, we were able for our region to designate additional people to help run or manage the region. For a specific event, I can click on this and I can add additional roles. So if I wanted to, I can add FTC Tech NH, and I could make that person maybe a judge or judge advisor. Okay? And all of a sudden that appears. And again, if I do that, this person will need to have a First Inspires dashboard account that is associated with this email address. And when they log into that dashboard account with this email address, they will then automatically have event judge and judge advisor status for this specific scrimmage, USNH Test Scrimmage 0. Okay, and similarly, I can do teams. And let's say this is another account, and I could make this an event administrator. So let's say I wanted to have a specific event administrator here. I can create that account, or add that role. And as long as this email is affiliated with a First Inspires dashboard, the next time that person logs into that dashboard, they will then be able to navigate to this FTC scoring web server or FTC scoring server, and they'll be able to access this event as an event administrator. Okay. And why don't we do this? Let's add TENG at firstinspires.org as an event administrator. I just want to do that because I want you to see that if I do that and I go back to my dashboard, now not only do I see my regions and not only do I see my teams, but now I see with the individual events that I am also added as an administrator in my landing page. Okay, so let's go back to managing this event. So we did the event users, and now we have to do the configuration. So this is where the new cloud system kind of helps out, particularly for a remote event, there's not a lot of configuring that you have to do or configuring that you have to do. So if you think about it, all of that system information was provided to the first staff member and entered into TARDIS. So we have all information. The event code was generated for us, the name of the event, the type of event, that was all done there. One thing that is different between staging and production is that in the staging system, you have the option as the administrator to toggle between a remote event or, if I untoggle this, a traditional event. Okay, so this is remote and this is traditional. And the reason why we did that is that would give you the flexibility in the staging environment to try different things. Let's do a scrimmage, but let's make it a remote scrimmage. Let's do a scrimmage, but let's make it a traditional in-person scrimmage. So in order to give you that flexibility with the staging server, you can actually toggle between a remote or traditional event. However, in the production system, when you tell first and the first staff person saying, hey, I'm going to have this event on October 2nd, it's going to be a remote event, then that change will be made in the TARDIS database at the first staff level member. I'm sorry, the first staff member level. You won't have the ability to change that or toggle that within the FTC scoring system. But in staging, you do have that ability. And since we're looking at remote events, let's toggle this and indicate that this is a remote event. Now, there's not much to configure with a remote event. The only thing you really have to do as the administrator to configure this remote event is specify the submission window. Now, the submission window has a maximum of 1 week. I don't know if it's hard-coded in staging, but in the production system, you can't define a window that's greater than 1 week or 7 days. But all you have to do is you have to pick a start date and an end date for your submission window that is 7 days or smaller. And so let's pick our start date as today. Why not? Let's get a jump on things. And then we'll pick as our end date a week from now. Okay, and that's all you have to do for a remote event to configure it. So now my event has been configuration, even though it says incomplete, it has been completed. This is again is an alpha version of our software. Okay, but there's not much that we needed to do. We just really, for a remote event, just needed to define the submission window. And that submission window is the amount of time that the people have, and that would be from October 1st to October 8th, to submit their remote scores for this event. Outside of that window, then technically they're not supposed to submit their scores, and the system will close them out of the system so that although they can view information about the event, they can't actually score or submit their scores because the window of submission has closed. Okay, so now that was primarily the configuration. One more step that you have to take would be to add and edit teams. So now I have my event there, but I don't have any I don't have any teams associated with that event. So let's associate teams with it. So what I can do is I can click on by state or province, or I can look by I can look at my different country and my different states. Okay, but let's look at a real country and a real state. Let's look at the United States of America, and let's look at New Hampshire. And similar to what I can do with the local software, and I'm not sure why New Hampshire's not appearing in here. Oh, here it is. Okay, I can find all of the New Hampshire teams here, and I could add them by region or by state or by this specific region, or I can add them individually. If I know a team, like if I know 11482, I know that team, that's my team, I'm going to add them. But let's add some teams here to the event. And then all of a sudden, magically, I have these teams here. If I hit done, my event is ready to go. Because it's a remote event, I don't need to generate a match schedule. I just need to, again, define the submission window and then add teams to it, and then I'm actually ready to go. I can start running matches now, or my teams can start running matches now. Okay, but let's look at the next step here. Let's look at add event or add edit event sponsors. For a specific event, you might not just have regional or program sponsors. You might also have a specific event sponsor. Maybe, like in New Hampshire, we have events at a local university. They might also be a sponsor for that particular event. You can add that sponsor here, and again, it's the same idea: the name, the title, the logo and then their position within your sponsor, scrolling banner. So for the event sponsors, so you have different tiers. You have the program sponsors, then you have your region sponsors, and then you have your event sponsors. Okay, and that gives you that. But again, this is all the dashboard here. And then once I have that, I've actually configured my remote event. So what that means is by defining the submission window, my teams who are going to participate in this event know they need to submit their scores between that window, whatever I define as a start date and whatever I define as the end date. Similarly, by adding teams to the system, then when the team logs into the system, whenever they log into the system, they will automatically see on their landing page this event if they were part of that list of teams that were added. So let's go back here. I added team 11482 to my event, okay? And it just so happens that my account here is also the mentor of that team. So let's see what happens. So again, you've done everything that you need to do. You've configured the event, you've added the teams, you've edited the sponsors, and now you're ready to run the event. So when the time opens for the submission window, or when the submission window opens, when a team logs into their system, and in this case I happen to log in as an account that is both a PDP or region admin as well as a team administrator, I can click on the team and I could see that, hey, now all of a sudden there is an additional event that I am scheduled to participate in. These happen to be remote events. I have 2 remote events that I'm scheduled to participate in. If I had any traditional in-person events, those would appear also as well down here. Now those would appear and there wouldn't be a play matches button next to it, because for the traditional events you're not going to play those matches through the internet, but I will see information about the date and location of that event. So let's look at it. This is the landing page that a team would see. So a team, when they log into the system, they might see something like this. Well, the teams that they're associated with, or the mentor might see the list of teams. And then when they click on that team page for that specific team, they get their team number up here, the name of the team, the type of team, and their location. Okay? Now this particular team has only 2 remote events that it's part of, or that it's registered to be playing in. Okay? And that's important. And just like I was able to add administrators to the region or to an event, if I am a team administrator, I can also add additional users to help me manage my team. Okay, and those users will need to make sure that they have a First Inspires dashboard account. And once they log into that First Inspire dashboard account, they will now be a member of the administrative team for 11482. I can also see all my events, and then there's a thing called test matches, which we'll talk about in a minute. Okay, because we're in the submission windows, if I go into this played matches and I drill down, I can still play my matches because I'll see that the submission window is still open. It closes on October 8th, and right now it's October 1st. So we're inside it opens on October 1st and it closes on October 8th. So we're inside the submission window. Okay, and let's look at this. So the idea is you have the ability to play a match. And I'm going to go scroll to some documentation, which I will provide links at the end of this to the actual documentation. But let's talk about how you want to do your scoring. If you're a team and you want to do a scoring, well, you're going to use this remote scoring system to do the actual scoring, and it'll become obvious once we step through it. But you're going to need to have, in addition to an internet connection, you'll need to have at least one device that you're going to use to enter in the scores as the match unfolds. Okay, so as the match is occurring, you're going to want to use this laptop or tablet or phone to enter in scores. And let's take a look at this team who did a nice video for us of a remote event walkthrough. They are using, and it's the coach, he has a laptop that is going to be used to input scores. Okay, then this team also has a second device, and that's over here on this chair, and that's going to be used as a field display. Okay, so if you are running an event at home or your team is running an event at home, at the minimum, they're going to need to have this device here on the left, lower left, to enter in scores. But they'll probably also want to have a device, a second device that they could put field side that can be used as a field side display. And the field side display is going to display useful information for the drive team and for the human player. It'll show a countdown clock or a match clock. And it'll also play the audio cues really loud, although this device can also play the audio cues. And it'll have scoring information. So if you choose, you can put the scoring information here. And if you have a second device, you can display both the countdown clock and the scoring information to help the drive team and the human players. Okay, so if I wanted to have, for instance, a countdown clock and that second device, what I would do is I would open the display. So I'm actually going to, let's see if I can open it from here. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to go over here. Okay, and I'm going to, see, notice I have two tabs here. This might actually be two physical, these could actually be two physical machines. One would be the scoring input and the other one would be the scoring display. And let's look at the display one, and this might be physically located on a different machine. Okay, if I open the display, it'll say, hey, what kind of display do you want? Do you want an audience display or do you want a field display? All right, so I'm going to pick field display because that seems to be more useful for a field because it has a bigger clock. Okay, and I'm going to let it play the sound effects because it happens to be hooked up to a device. It's hooked up to speakers. And in this case, now that I've done that, this is going to be the field display for team 11482. And then if I'm managing team 11482, whether it's from this laptop or a different device, I can then play matches over here. And the difference between playing a test match, which is over here, and playing a production match is that if I play a test match, when the match is over, that test match will not be saved to the system. However, if I play this match over here, when I'm done scoring it, it's going to get saved to the FTC scoring server, and it's part of the record for that event. Okay, so let's do that. Let's pretend we're a team, and we're actually going to play a production match. And I just want to show you, if I play test match, it's very similar to a production match, but it says obviously it's a test match. And again, anything I do, like if I do stuff, I can always reset the test match. The difference for a production match is that when I go and play the matches for this test scrimmage 0, if I go to this production match, or not production match, official match, that whatever I score is going to be submitted to the system. I can't stop it. I can't change it once it's been submitted. So it's just like a real event. If you're playing in a real match, once that timer starts, you can't stop it. It just keeps running it, and whatever score you get is what you get. Okay, so let me just show you really quickly. If I were to play a test match, I just want to show you how this scoring system works, or the display works. So as I am ready to play a match, I have these buttons that I do in sequence, starting with show preview, then go to randomize, then go to show match, and I go to start match. I also can mute the display, or I can enable the display. By default, it's muted, so it's not going to play the sounds on this device, but it will play the sounds on this device, because remember, I didn't disable it. Okay, but let's see. Let's show the preview of this test match. And if I do that, you'll notice that your display will change. And that way the people who are getting ready to play say, oh, okay, we're getting ready for a match, and that match is named test match, and it's just our team. And then I can randomize the goals for the autonomous portion. And you can see this is a 4 stack, and they're supposed to drop the wobble goal in the target zone C. And if you had a field side display, you'll see that in this field side display. Okay, and then I can show the match like I'm getting ready to start, and here's the timer, and here's the information, and the states are empty, there's no scores, and I check with the team and I say, are you ready? And if you're ready, then let's start the match. And there'll be a countdown clock, and then with that countdown clock, the screen will change and this display will start to count down. And as I am scoring here, so notice there's no points here at all. As they drop the wobble, the goal in the wobble goal in the target zone, and maybe they scored one in the high goal, and maybe they knocked down one of the power shot targets, and then they navigated, then you'll see that those goals have changed, and now all of a sudden I have 47 points here. Okay? And the thing about the difference between this test match and the official match is, again, with a test match, I can always cancel the test match. So if I hit reset match, everything goes back to normal, but or everything goes back to the pre-match state. But once they start a real official match, then that match runs its course, and then they could submit their scores. And once the scores are submitted, they become official and part of that team's record for the event. Okay? So let's actually run an official match. Let's go to this Play Matches button here. Let's go over here, and we already have our display open, so we don't have to do that. And let me just point out one other thing. If a team doesn't have the ability to use the internet, or they don't have a reliable internet connection, rather than playing the matches and scoring them in real time using this cloud system, a team could use a paper score sheet, and then an administrator or the team themselves can later on enter in the offline match data using this interface. So rather than running the actual event, they can go to this web page, and then they can enter in the data here if they scored it with a paper score sheet. Okay, but let's go back here. Let's play our matches, and let's play match 0 because that's unplayed. For an official match, teams should be aware that once you start an official match, unlike a test match, you can't stop the match. The match will have to run its course. So teams should remember that they shouldn't play an official match until they're really ready. If during the match, for instance, the wheels fell off the robot, they would have to continue and the match would play on, and there's no opportunity, unlike a test match, for them to stop and replay this official match. So let's get started. We have our field display here, and we're going to show the preview for this official match. You'll see this is match number 1. We'll randomize it, and that should be displayed also on our field display for the drive team and the human player. We'll show the match information indicating that the scorekeeper is ready to start the match. And once we get the OK from the teams, we're just going to push the start match button. We'll start to score our autonomous tasks. Then there'll be a transition period to driver controlled, where we will submit our autonomous scores. Then we'll do the driver controlled scores. And after that, there will be a review period where we can review the scores before doing a final submission. So let's get started.
3, 2, 1.
And you can see that now I have an autonomous input, but there is no ability for me to stop this official match. So I'll score this autonomous match. And after the autonomous period is over, I'm going to review, then submit my autonomous scores, and now I'm ready for the driver controlled period. And during the driver controlled period, I will monitor the goals, enter in the driver controlled scores, and in the last 30 seconds, enter in any end game task that the team might have completed. Okay, now we see that the driver controlled period is over and the match is over, and I'll review my driver controlled entries, and then I'll submit that when I'm ready. And then when I'm ready, I have one final opportunity to review both the autonomous scores and the driver controlled scores. So as the team or the team's scorekeeper keeps track of the scoring events in a remote match, they'll have one final opportunity before making a formal submission to review and correct any of these autonomous or driver controlled scoring events. And if it looks good, the scorekeeper commits it by pushing the final button, and that information is there, and now it becomes read-only. So if a team goes back into this, they'll see a read-only version of the score for that match that was just played. Now note, in this particular example, my account, the TENG at firstinspires.org, happens to also be an administrator for this region and also for this scrimmage event. So even though this match is officially completed, because I have administrative rights, I'll have the ability to edit the scores and replay the match. However, if I were the team would not see these edit buttons at the bottom. They would only see this form of the score, which is a read-only form, and they wouldn't have any opportunity to edit that score because the match has already been officially selected. So that's running a remote event from the team perspective. Again, I want to show really quickly, if that team doesn't have the option to play the match with a live scoring system in place, perhaps because they might not have a reliable internet connection, the team has the ability to score with paper score sheets that they can download from the firstinspires.org website, and then they can provide that score sheet to a mentor who has access to the internet or to an event administrator, and that event administrator can enter that information directly into the system. And let's see how you would do that. So if we go back to here, if we were the team 11482, we did our match, played, but we didn't have access to the internet. We used a paper scoring sheet, and we did complete our second match, or match number 1. If we completed that and we want to enter that into the system, we can give that to someone who has access and who is administrator for our team, and they can enter that in during the submission window as a offline score. So let's see how we would do that. Let's go back to team 11482's test scrimmage 0. Let's look at their play match. And instead of going to play matches, we're going to go to enter offline matches. And so let's say we got the match information for match number 2 for this event. And that was emailed to us. The team scored it on a piece of paper. They used their smartphone to take a picture of the paper, and then they emailed it to me as an event administrator or as a team administrator. I can go into there, and rather than running the whole entire thing using the live scoring input, I can just take those scores from the paper sheet and transfer them to this electronic sheet. And so let's do that. Let's say we did this, and then let's go to our driver control section. Let's say we got 7 in the high goal, we got 7 in the mid goal, we knocked the left and center power shots, and we got the wobble goal and drop zone in the wobble goal number 0 in the drop zone. We do a final review and compare it to the paper sheet, and we submit the final scores. And having done that, now we see that there are 2 official events for the team 11482 for this remote event. Okay, and again, if a team wants to go back to this, they can go to their play matches display, and they'll see that, hey, I also played match number 2, and that was submitted remotely or offline by someone who had access to the system with the internet or with the electronic score sheet. So again, team 11482 is able to score this with paper offline, and then they could submit it later at a later date when they have access to the internet, as long as that later date is still within the event submission window. Okay, and again, a team would not see these edit buttons or replay buttons at the bottom because they would not have the administrative access to this event. So really quickly, I just wanted to show you some additional information about this event. So if you are the administrator for the event, with this display, so you have the ability to manage the event, and we talked about all those steps that you do to manage the event. But if you look, you also have the match list, and if you look at your match list now, because team 11482 completed 2 matches, you'll see that listed here. And so you see all of the teams that are associated with this particular event, and you can click on any one of these and manage those teams and see what their teams look like or enter their offline matches. So if I go back here and I look at this match list, I can see 11482, and I can actually see the matches that they played for this particular event. And I could see that they scored these 2, and if I wanted to, I could go in and view the scores and possibly edit them, or if there was some compelling reason to force a replay, I, as an event administrator, can do that replay from this interface. And I can also, again, go back to this interface and enter the offline data for them. So if they, again, scored most of their matches using paper score sheets and then sent those score sheets to you, you as an event administrator have the ability to enter those offline matches on behalf of them. Rankings are available here, and the rankings are, again, based on the match play. And then manage awards. If this is an event that has awards, I can issue the awards here. So let's say I look at the control award. Let's say I want to give the Collins Aerospace Innovate Award. I just select the team that won. They won 2, so I'll go give it to someone else. I'll give it to Blue Box. I'm going to give this one to Overly Complex. I'm going to give this one to Maverbits. And then when I'm ready, similar to how you can have a display screen, if I want to give or present the awards, I can open an awards display, and I'm going to open this in a new tab. And just like you can have a separate device that you use as your field display, you can have a separate device that you use as your award display. And you can present the awards. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over these 3 awards because I didn't give them out yet. I'm going to go to the control award, and I've jumped to that control award. And now that appears over here. And as I step through the results for the control award, those results will appear on the awards display. So this is useful because you're doing a remote event and you wanted to have a remote award ceremony. You can use something like Zoom or some other video conferencing solution, and you can share your screen, and as you're talking you can step through the awards. So now we're going to go through the Motivate Award, and I'll step through the results of the Motivate Award. 3rd place, it was the Derryfield Binary Bots. In 2nd place, it was the TIE Fighters, and in 3rd place, it was Overly Complex. And you'll see that as you step through the awards, those awards will appear on the display. Okay, and that in a nutshell is really how you would manage a remote event, and it also shows you what the team experience would be, and just to give you a flavor of what the workflow would be for both the PDP and the remote team for an event. Once the event is complete and all of the teams have submitted their scores and the window of submission has closed, you can go back as the PDP to the manage event dashboard. You can look at an advancement report to see who's going to advance to the next level if it's a tournament. And most importantly, when you're done, you could publish the event results. And when you want to publish the event results, once you publish those results, even if you are a region or event administrator, those event results are read-only. Once they've been published, they go sent to a display, the FTC events display website. And even though you are an administrator for the event, or even though you are an administrator for the region, you can no longer modify those published events. Okay, so if I were to publish this event, that would be available. And I'll just give you an example. This is an example of what the events will look like. This is actually showing last season's event results, but you can, when the season is underway, you can publish your events when they're completed, and then your community can look at these events through this FTC events interface. And they can find the event, and then they'll be able to look at the event results. Okay? So, and that is the final step in that event dashboard. And once you've published the events, then your event is considered complete.